This is Chargers Unleashed podcast. Here are your hosts, Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, is being brought to you by BetOnline, Charger Bull Family, Rock Solid Sports Memorabilia. If this is your first time tuning into the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein, it's 9 o'clock, Saturday, August 13th. Wake up. Grab your espresso, grab your coffee, grab your kombucha, your vitamin water. In my case, it's an energy drink.
I thought you were going for a beer.
I do have a little bit of a moral compass to me. But preseason or not, Dan, we've finally made it to the first Chargers game of the season.
Jake, say it with me. Football is back. Chargers Unleashed. Listeners, viewers, welcome to the show, guys. We are live. We have a football game to talk about today. Chargers versus Rams, preseason week 1. So much to talk about. I don't know if folks saw it. We do have a giveaway that we're going to be giving out at the middle of the show. So stay tuned for that one. So I will say this. I hope folks are studied up on their history of Chargers Unleashed. I'll give you a little bit of a clue of what the giveaway is going to be. But great show today. We're going to kind of go through what to look for, storylines, some of the players we're looking forward to watching this week, specifically game 1. Jake, before we forget, over under how many times I squeal today because Chargers football is back. I'll be in SoFi. Will I lose my voice? Over under 47 times I squeal like this at the game.
I mean, for my sake, I hope you don't squeal that much because I don't want to hear that. So I'll pound the under. I'll pound the under on that one. But to Dan's point, let's pay the bills. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports contests and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet using the promo code BELIEVE50. That's BLEAV50 to receive your first 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Jake, we got friends and family already in the chat. Let's go ahead and give them quick shout outs here. Richie Lloyd, bolt up. Football is back, baby. We've got Alex Sandoval, bolt up. David, I think he's mentioning this to both of us. Nice seeing you at camp. You too, my friend. Let's go through these. Oh, Herbalist. Yo, let's go, bolt up. Jorge believes and agreed with me that it was, in fact, a beer that you were holding up.
I'm sure a lot of people did. Like, yo, Jake's getting started today.
Craig Smith is saying, try the ZOA Fruit Punch. It's a Rocks energy drink.
Yes, the ZOA energy drink, for anybody that has not had it, it's actually very, very good. And Craig will probably be pissed at me because when I was at the grocery store this morning, looking at what energy drink I was going to get. Look, I'm partial to watermelon, which is why I chose this one. But it was literally between that and the ZOA blueberry. And so Craig's probably going to be like, bro, you chose wrong. I understand, but can't knock my watermelon, dude.
This episode is brought to you by ZOA Blueberry.
Right.
Craig Smith. Oh, yeah. Go Bolts, by the way. Jorge Rodriguez helping us out. Believe50. That's right. Go to BetOnline. Use the code Believe50 to save from BetOnline. Herbalist. How many rushing attempts does Xander Horvath get? Over under 8.5 attempts. Before you answer, Jake, give your questions in the comments. Go ahead and text us at 31032. And we'll go ahead and answer your questions live or in the comments as we go through this episode. We are going to get into the fullback position. So, Herbalist, hold your tongue there. We'll totally answer that question. Jake, all right, so we're going to go through the positions. We're going to go through kind of what's exciting, what we're going to look for. But to kind of set the stage, preseason, week 1. Lots of players are playing. Also, lots of players are not playing. You're not going to see a Justin Herbert. You're not going to see it, obviously, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Keenan Allen. Like, a lot of these guys are not playing, which I'm so okay with. Overall, what are you looking for today? Like, what should we be eyeing when we're looking at it? Like, obviously, the final score doesn't matter. Coach doesn't care about the final score. He wants to get people reps. You heard Staley talk about, like, this is where we get to judge folks who haven't yet proven themselves. And so, like, what should we look for as we're watching this game?
I mean, outside of specific position battles, Dan, as a whole, I mean, like you said, there's going to be a good handful of guys that are not going to play this game. I think Staley alluded to that during his press conference this week when he basically said, if we know who you are, or as far as your roster spot goes, you're probably not going to be playing. So all the big names that you're expecting to see out there, offense, defense, you're probably not going to see them. So what does that do? That gives a great opportunity for a lot of these depth pieces. And Dan, this is what we've been talking about most of this preseason already, is just the Chargers seem like they finally have great depth behind some of their top-notch pieces. So especially for you're looking at guys in the draft, other possible free agent people that have been brought in, undrafted guys that have been making a lot of noise during camp, i.e. the Raheem Lanes, the Lloyds, you name it. This is their time to shine. The Jamal Davises, I could keep going on, and we will throughout this show, but these are the guys that you really want to look out for. So it's roster spot battle at this point. And for these young guys, you now only get 3 opportunities. So what are you going to do when you're out there? Make the most of the reps you get, regardless of how many they are. Make the most of the reps. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these young guys today.
Yeah, looks like Xander Horvath is someone a lot of folks are excited to see. Zaddy Horvath about to go off, says Jorge Rodriguez, and also talks about the running back battle going to be something good to watch as well. Sam Frieden, ZJ77, Sawyer, Pipkins, and Norton on the line is going to be good to watch for. We will obviously get into the offensive line. So, Jake, let's just kind of start it off then. Let's go right into kind of the positions that we're looking forward to. Jorge talked about it. Running back position. We obviously know Austin Ekeler is that dude. Nothing to worry about with him. After that, though, there's probably 2 or 3 spots up for grabs. You've got Joshua Kelly, who's been a standout so far in camp. People have talked about his progression and his improvements in the offseason compared to last year. He's gained weight. He's got more size, more speed. You've got Letty Brown. You got Kevin Marks. You've got Larry Roundtree. This is going to be a position that you're going to finally be able to see, like, them getting tackled. Can they break tackles? How are they looking in terms of vision? Jake, I think running back 2, 3, possibly 4 spot are all up for grabs. Do you see any one of these guys kind of separating themselves? Like, what are you looking for from this group?
So first off, I'd be interested to see, like, if you base anything off of the unofficial depth chart that was released this week. So it went Austin Ekeler, Joshua Kelly, Larry Roundtree, Isaiah Spiller. Obviously, that's not going to be the depth chart when it comes to regular season game 1. But if you were to pick any one of those guys outside of Isaiah Spiller that I feel has separated themselves, not necessarily by much, it's probably been Joshua Kelly in practice. And again, we're not talking about a wide margin here, but Joshua Kelly, especially listening to him yesterday during his press conference and talking about all the offseason work that he's done to better his technique, to better his body, came into camp looking bigger, is in better shape than he was a year ago. I would be interested to see how this goes. So you may actually see Joshua Kelly starting this game, and I'll be interested to see when they actually decide to put Spiller in there. You haven't really seen that much from Kevin Marks or Larry Roundtree as of yet. So we'll see how their time is split throughout the game. But, if we can already pencil in Isaiah Spiller essentially as the RB2, let's see who's going to take over this RB3 spot. And again, I'm one of the people that have said, I don't think that you need to carry more than 3 running backs on the active roster. So make it a tight battle, make it a tight competition between these remaining 4 guys.
Yeah, we've all seen Isaiah Spiller at camp, and he looks as advertised. He's got a nice smoothness to him, calmness. His first jab step is incredible. You see a lot of work that he brings on special teams, which honestly, a lot of these guys are also vying for work on special teams too. So look for that as well. That could also be a telltale sign. Obviously, they need to run, but pass protection, special teams, those are the things that get you a roster spot on this team when it's this deep. But next one, Jake, let's go to it. People talked about it. Zaddy himself. Xander Horvath, the fullback position. Hell, we don't even know if there's going to be a fullback on this roster because we have so many.
There will be a fullback on this roster.
Yes, but who is it going to be? Like, are we going to have a Xander Horvath? Are we going to have Gabe Neighbors? Is it going to be Gerald Everett? Is it going to be Larry Roundtree? Like, there's a ton of guys who can kind of fit that bill, along with some of the tight ends as well. Xander Horvath ripped. The guy's shredded, obviously. Everyone talks about how physical he is at Purdue. We see him already. Like, I don't necessarily know if I'm like looking forward to it in terms of like how much of an impact it's going to have on the team. But I'm more just like, okay, we finally get to see this guy knock some dudes over.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you go back to Xander Horvath's college career when he was out at Purdue. He was more of just the straight running back style, even though he had that fullback aspect to him. He was much more of just like an overall tailback. So, but the good thing is, Dan, what we've already seen from him in camp is that he's very capable of catching the ball out of the field, not afraid to hit people when he's out there. And as Daniel Popper alluded to in his article, what's really going to come down to this when you're watching this between Gabe Neighbors and Xander Horvath is the special teams play. And what is that going to look like? And always for some of these I don't want to say abstract, but positions like this, as far as the fullback goes, when you talk about tight battles, special teams is the difference maker at the end of the day when it comes down to it. So what's that going to look like? Gabe Neighbors obviously has the advantage because he's been in this system a lot longer than Xander is. We know how close he is with Justin Herbert, but there's a reason why the Chargers went out, albeit in the 7th round, that the Chargers went out and drafted Xander Horvath. You saw what happened last year with Steven Anderson essentially taking over that fullback, halfback spot because there was more things that you could do with him. Versatility that you brought into that position, another added element that you could give this offense. And I think just from an athletic standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, I think as we go through these first 3 preseason games, Xander Horvath is going to display the versatility that he has, and that's going to what's really add the bang for the buck in the offense.
I agree. Jake, we talked about running backs. I didn't even mention this. Obviously, we talked about the giveaway that we're going to be doing here in a bit for folks live on the show. We also have an Isaiah Spiller signed mini helmet giveaway. It's right here. It's on our Twitter account. Go ahead and you can do it on Twitter or on Instagram. But essentially, go ahead and hit the follow and subscribe and or tag a friend, depending on if you are on Instagram or on Twitter. And you get a chance to win the Isaiah Spiller signed mini helmet, who just turned 21, finally can drink. Something other than non-alcoholic beverages. I believe we are announcing the winner of that on the 16th. So go ahead and enter for your chance to win that one as well. Jake, a question came in here about, are we going to see the old Joshua Kelly? Now, I want to touch on this for a second. And this is a good question because the old Joshua Kelly, depending on how far back you want to go, if we're going to last year, fumble issues, confidence issues, didn't really get to see the field, and really didn't show much impact. You remember the goal line fumble that everyone was just like gutted by. He was asked about this by Matt Money Smith and Chris Harry on the latest Chargers Weekly about kind of what it's like to kind of get through that, what he's gone through this offseason. And he kind of alluded to the idea that like he needs to, he acknowledged the fact that mistake or those mistakes got to him more than they should have. And he took this offseason to kind of get his mind right, to kind of get his body right, and to focus all of his energy on being the best Joshua Kelly he can be. And he bulked up, and he's working on kind of using that mistake, quote unquote, as fuel. Talked about like, hey, even the Tom Brady's throw interceptions. Now, is he as good as Tom Brady? Obviously not. But he's kind of talking to the fact that people make mistakes. It doesn't define you. So I do think that he has grown both physically and mentally. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to see the old Joshua Kelly mentally. And I hope that physically, with kind of this new physique that he's got and kind of this new offensive line, got the new running back kind of competition, I think he's going to look good. I mean, he's looked good so far, but it's a question to look for. Would you agree?
100%. But, I get it because you go back to his rookie season and then through those first couple of weeks, there were really, really good flashes of Joshua Kelly during his first year in the league. I was a big fan of him coming out of UCLA as far as bringing him in as a running back 3 at that time behind Austin Ekeler and Justin Jackson. But you've seen the ups and downs, as you mentioned, Dan, the fumble issues that he's gone through, the lack of just overall visibility that he's had on the field as far as where to run. And when you hear these comments, it just seems like a new Josh Kelly. So I'm gonna agree with Jorge in the comments here. No, you're not going to see the old Josh Kelly. You're going to see the new Josh Kelly, I would think. So this is a perfect opportunity for him to really separate himself from the rest of the pack. If everything that he's been training for, and these comments that he had yesterday on Thursday are true.
Yep. Reality Check comes in here first, gives us with the bros, and then also says, Josh Kelly, I was down on, but I'm willing to take a chance after that interview. Jake, I don't know. Did you listen to? I know he had the press conference. He had the interview with Matt Money, and it was good just to hear him. He's always been positive. Everyone loves his smile; it's infectious. But to hear him kind of use that as a learning experience, I think was something that I wasn't expecting, and it was Sam Frieden actually talked about this in a comment here. You can hear Ekeler's influence in how he speaks now, which is a good point, to be honest. Ekeler has talked about like needing somebody to step up and needing kind of that like perspective and that fight and competition. And so it's kind of cool to see this running back group kind of come together. They talk about it like, yes, it's a competition, but they're all friends and they're trying to get better. So fullback, running back, the whole thing's going to be fun. They get to finally hit people and get hit. Show us if they can break tackles, show us their moves, etc., as well as special teams. Moving on, Jake. This is going to be an interesting one. So, skill positions, wide receiver. I don't know what we're going to see, but there's going to be a lot of comments. This is going to be one of those things where like Chargers fans are going to have to like temper their expectations and recognize that like one play, one series, one game, it doesn't define your narrative or their narratives. Like there's a lot to kind of unpack with this, but so far we've seen DeAndre Carter ball out. We've seen Michael Bandy really stand out. He arguably had one of the best catches of the entire camp so far. And then Joe Reed has kind of seen a little bit of play of action. And he's kind of made some, I've seen a couple touchdowns he's had, fade routes. So this, I'm not really concerned about like the, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. I'm not going to see them really. And Josh Palmer, I'm really not even concerned with either. And Guyton, I'm not really concerned, quote unquote, with. But I'm curious to see this group specifically because this trio, they're obviously wide receivers. They obviously can play special teams. And they're kind of all battling for that same spot, mold, archetype of player. Obviously, DeAndre Carter, he's in. But if there's going to be another one, that's going to be where this is going to be exciting. So watch out for these names on special teams, as a gunner, as returner, obviously as a wide receiver, jet sweeps, you name it. That's where you're going to see if these guys can make the team.
Yeah, Dan, to me, this all comes down to, is the Chargers going to keep 6 wide receivers or 5? And 2 of these guys that you have up on the screen is going to be the main storyline for that possible 6th position between Joe Reed and Michael Bandy. And as you alluded to, special teams is going to be huge for these guys. And as we have noted during training camp, Michael Bandy has gotten a lot more reps in the special teams drills than Joe Reed. And again, that's surprising now, 2 years in a row that we have seen this, especially given Joe Reed's resume going all the way back to his time in college and what he was able to do on special teams. And trust me, I'm rooting for Joe Reed. I'm glad he's back healthy. I'm glad that he had a very nice mini camp earlier this year. And again, as you mentioned, he's had his moments, probably not as much as Carter and Bandy, but he's had his moments. So with the likelihood that you're not going to see Keenan Allen or Mike Williams in the game tonight, what's the rest of this wide receiver group going to do? What's the most of these opportunities that they're going to make over these next 3 weeks? And yes, as much as I'm excited to see DeAndre Carter play in an actual game, I mean, the guy there is an argument to be made out there right now that DeAndre Carter is not wide receiver 5. He's wide receiver 4 with the way that he's looked out there in camp. So
production-wise, absolutely.
Yes, to me, it's 2 guys that I'm really focused on as we get more into the later part of the game. And that's Bandy and Reed. Show me what they can do.
Yep. Yeah, Herbalist, love what I'm seeing and hearing out of Carter. I just hope the best for Joe Reed. I'd hate to see him leave the squad. I agree. Herbalist, Joe Reed, here's hoping you can show out. A reality check comes in, Jake. Bandy got practice squad written all over him this year. We are too deep. Now, I don't.
It's not from a lack of play, but if the Chargers don't end up keeping 6 receivers, then I fully agree with you on that. Yep. But it's definitely not from a lack of play that he has practice squad written all over him.
I agree. All right, let's go to the next one, Jake. Offensive line. This has been one of the biggest storylines all offseason. And the Chargers, they kind of went all in with their existing squad when it comes down to Trey Pipkins, Storm Norton. We've heard all offseason, how much improved they are, and the Duke Manyweather and comments and all that kind of stuff. Like, we've heard all that. Today, though, we get to see these guys go up against other players on other teams and quite literally fighting for their job. One of these guys is going to be the starter. One of these guys is not. Storm Norton, Trey Pipkins. You might even see like Jamari Sawyer out there. You might see him obviously at guard.
Oh, you will.
You'll see a lot of things on the offensive line, but I think this specifically, Storm Norton versus Trey Pipkins as the kind of the right tackle battle. And unfairly, Jake, I think this is the hard part. One play can make or break one of these players' entire season. And it's unfortunate. Like as an offensive lineman, you can go 39 for 40 on pass protection, and 39 of them are great. One of them you get beat, and that's the highlight reel.
Yep.
And so it's unfortunate, it's hard, and the coaching staff takes that into account. Oh, this is going to be tough. I think personally, I know it's kind of neck and neck. I think Pipkins would probably get it if it started today. Are you nervous about this?
I'm not nervous about this because look, here's something that we need to temper our expectations on if we're talking specifically about the right tackle position. What has been noted and alluded to by guys like Daniel Popper, by the coaching staff, is that this position at right tackle, as far as the battle goes, we really are not going to know who's going to be the starter until just before the regular season. Because if you go by what they've done during training camp practices, they have alternated Norton and Pipkins on who gets the first team reps every other day. It sounds like that's the exact same thing that's going to happen here over the next 3 weeks of the preseason games. If you look at the unofficial depth chart, it looks like Storm Norton is going to get the first team reps today, that Pipkins will come in after him. And then next week, you'll see the exact opposite, where you'll still see Pipkins take the first team reps, and then Norton will follow. But I truly believe that this is going to be a big time question mark all the way up until the regular season. Unless there is a handful of either positive or negative plays that could really just show their cards in that circumstance. So right tackle, let's just ride this wave over the next 3 weeks, because nothing is going to be solidified here until really just before the regular season. But other guys that you were talking about there, Dan, in terms of the offensive line goes, if we're, you mentioned the Solars, you mentioned the Brandon Hymases of the world, other guys, Foster Sorrell, who is the most likely backup for Rashawn Slater right now. Yes, you said Will Clapp. Dan, we've seen some good reps in training camp from Ryan Hunter, for crying out loud. So I'll be interested to see what these second and third team offensive linemen are going to do out there. And again, in a position traditionally that the Chargers have not had very good depth pieces, let's see what these guys can do.
Who do you think is going to be left tackle today? There's a question came in. Let's see if I can find it real fast. Reality Check asked the question, who's starting at left tackle tonight?
It wouldn't surprise me if it's Foster Sorrell, because that's what it is on the depth chart. I think as the game goes on, maybe you see Hymas switch over to that spot, even though he's more predominantly on the right side. Trey Pipkins is always your emergency swing tackle, essentially, but I still think that they're going to predominantly put him at the right spot. Zach Bailey's also on the depth chart under the left tackle designation. So, it could be a multitude of people, but I would think if Rashawn Slater's not playing today, then it would probably be Foster Sorrell would be the first man up.
Yep. All right. We are closing in on the Chargers Unleashed giveaway that we're going to be doing here. Let's do it after the next group of positions. And just as a quick preview, we're going to be giving away LAFB t-shirt of choice. Go to the LAFB shop. Of course, if you don't win, use the code Unleashed, save 25%. You can get the 4th and Staley. You can get the I'm Not Effing Tired by Joey Bosa. You can get the rally towel that you can bring to SoFi. And
what's the one you're wearing, Dan?
You can get the cold beer hot takes cold beer, which I honestly think we might have to look out for Jake later on this afternoon. By the time we get to the football game, I wonder how many of these he's going to have. Is he going to have more hot takes or more cold beer? We'll find out.
That should be the new line on Bet Online to bet on. Over or under 10 by the time the game rolls around.
And you can decide if you want it to be hot takes or cold beer.
I have a nice Saturday plan. What can I say? Aside from the game, I have a very nice Saturday plan.
As you should. And the newest addition to the LAFB merch is going to be the quote-unquote paid actor that you see so much on social media. But we did a little fun thing with it, put some lightning bolts in the quotes and put a nice, huge lightning bolt in the word paid. We're all paid actors at this point. You saw it at training camp. Let's bring it to SoFi. Let's have some fun. The winner of the giveaway is going to get their shirt of choice. We'll go ahead and announce that here in a second. Jake, let's move on to the next position. Okay. Defensive line. And by the way, we did see some comments here about questions on the offensive tackle. We'll get to that in a second. We all know, obviously, that we have issues or had issues, at the defensive line, specifically run. They went out and got Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson. We know that narrative. Currently, and again, it's by Chargers communication, so take it with a grain of salt, but I believe they have Tillery over Morgan Fox as a quote-unquote defensive end. I don't see that happening.
No.
And then you've also got Fehoko in there, who's been balling out during camp. I think he had a pick 6 already. Defense
pick 6 for Fehoko?
Yes, I think he did. Which you remember him like rumbling?
That was Gaziano. That was Gaziano.
Was it?
That's what I was like. Fehoko had a pick 6. No, it was Gaziano.
All right, well, we're seeing the big guys get touchdowns. All right, that means that we're seeing something good. So overall, defensive line, again, similar to the running backs. This is where we're going to see them actually being able to be physical against another team, able to make tackles, able to push the pocket, or able to go in pursuit. Who knows? Tillery's playing for his roster spot quite literally. Fehoko, quite literally. Morgan Fox, I think, is safe. I'm not worried about it. But I think Fehoko, Covington, Tillery, Merrill, Gaziano, all those guys, the defensive line interior is going to be something that, again, if you see one of them get like a huge tackle for a loss, forced fumble, sack, that's a big deal for defensive linemen. And so for guys like Tillery, who like everyone feels like they have something out for him, like if he goes out and shuts everybody up, like it's gonna be a big day. So defensive line, I would say interior defensive line is a big one.
Yeah, 100%, Dan. What is Jerry Tillery going to do with these opportunities that he's had? Because we've heard the comments now. When we've been there at practice, hasn't really been a lot to say about Jerry Tillery up until this point. And a lot of people have speculated that there is a good chance, given the new acquisitions on this defensive line, given essentially that you brought in 4 new faces, and that's including Tito with a draft pick, and with the other young guys that you have behind him, and Brandon Fehoko, Christian Covington, Forrest Merrill, where does Jerry Tillery fit into this whole mixture? Can he separate himself? Because Fehoko has just looked spectacular through training camp thus far. I think that was the one of the issues that I had, even though I know it's unofficial depth chart. I looked at that and I said, why is Brandon Fehoko behind Christian Covington right now? I know it's unofficial, and I know it's, probably a veteran getting the benefit of the doubt. I love the way that Tyler Schoen from Guilty as Charged actually spoke about it, because he literally took the words out of my mouth. He's like, and now we're going to see all the overreactions. I'm not going to overreact to this depth chart. And what is Christian Covington doing over Brandon Fehoko? I literally thought that exact same thing. But Dan, this is a revamped defensive line essentially in just one season. And what are these young guys going to do when they have this much time to make a name for themselves? I don't see any way how you can keep Brandon Fehoko off this roster. I just don't, when it comes down to it at the end of the day. Regardless what happens between today and the end of the preseason, I do not see any way that you can keep him off the roster, given what he did for you in the run game last year and what he's already showed out in training camp this year. Forrest Merrill, that's close to my heart. I really like Forrest Merrill.
Bowling ball 66.
I would love to see him get a little bit more time as well, because he's made some sporadic noise in training camp as well. So, this will be an interesting one to watch for. And I'm excited for this, because this is one of those positions where there's just so much depth and so much competition behind it. And when we're talking about literally possibly the difference of one roster spot and 3 or 4 guys duking it out for one, it's gonna make it interesting.
I agree. 100% agree. Lots of comments here about the defensive tackle spot. Some folks are high on others. Some folks are very low on a one Jerry Tillery. And again, like, if we're being critical, if we're being honest, there is reason to be critical of Jerry Tillery. He has not lived up to that first round hype. Now, look, you can say, sure, he hasn't been in the same system for more than a few years. And sure, he had a ton of snaps last year in a position he wasn't ready for. And sure, it's a new system. And no, like, I'm sorry, but at defensive tackle, interior defensive line, like, there's only so many things that can change for you before, like, you have to step up. You just have to. Like, you're in your 4th year. Not going to pick up. They didn't pick up the 5th year option. It's time. Speaking of Tyler Schoen, guilty as charged, guys. Tyler, thank you so much. Gave us $10 for good luck this season on YouTube. Guys, go ahead and donate if you would like to get your super stickers, whatever they're called. I don't even know what they're called at this point. But thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. Good luck to you guys as well. Jake, I went all the way through the offense and I forgot one position. And this is kind of a fun one. So let's get to tight end in a second, Jake. But before we get to that, let's just kind of fly through some of these comments because they're actually pretty funny. Herbalist, Fahoko gonna light up tonight. Bolt up, excuse me. Reality check, vote no on prop Tillery.
I'm sorry. That was actually pretty good.
Nate B, I've heard nothing but bad things about Tillery through camp. I generally don't understand why he hasn't been traded or cut.
Look, I think regardless of where things stand right now in training camp, I think the writing is almost in permanent ink that's on the wall right now for Jerry Tillery. We know he didn't pick up his 5th year option. We heard the comments from Brandon Staley during mandatory minicamp as far as his thought process. Remember, Tillery didn't show up for a little portion of minicamp as well. So, and couple that with how the play has gone through training camp thus far, again, unless something drastically changes here over the next 3 weeks, I think it's right. The writing's on the wall, personally.
I agree. Sam Frieden, by the way, Jake, current winner of the 2 tickets to the Chargers-Rams preseason game today.
Enjoy, Sam.
Congratulations. Enjoy. Great seats. I think you're in the 300 level. Have some fun tonight. First beer is on you if I see you. Jake, should we do a giveaway before we get to the tight ends?
Let's do it.
All right. Chargers Unleashed LAFB giveaway. We told you about it before. We're doing a giveaway for folks who are live on the show. We told you probably should know a little bit or two about the history of Chargers Unleashed. So, Jake, would you like to do the honors of asking the question, or would you like me to?
Please do, Dan. Please do.
All right. So, again, for a LAFB merchandise t-shirt of your choice, again, you guys can DM us after you win if you win. The question to win, first person to answer it in the comments will win the shirt. Who was the first special guest on Chargers Unleashed? Who was the first special guest on Chargers Unleashed? Friend of the show.
Everybody's opening up another window right now on YouTube.
That's okay.
Which one is it?
Let's see how fast those Twitter fingers are. We'll let folks do some digging, figure it out. Jake, let's go to the tight ends.
Okay.
Obviously, Gerald Everett, Donald Parham. I'm not sure how much we're going to see from those guys today, but after that, there's a whole bunch of dudes fighting for a roster spot, and it's kind of hard to see other folks making it, other than obviously McKitty. What say you?
Well, Dan, if we're taking what Daniel Popper said into his latest article, which should be the truth, because obviously we know how often he's out there and his copious notes that he's taken. Obviously, with Donald Parham going down last week, thankfully, it doesn't look like it's anything serious. You're probably not going to see him tonight because he's still dealing with the hamstring issue. Popper also said that he doesn't expect Gerald Everett or Trey McKitty, as McKitty is still working his way back from minor injuries. So what does that mean? You're going to see a lot of Campmore, Kromenhoek, Sage Sherratt. That's going to be the bulk of your tight ends so far, or tonight. And make it interesting, because Cam Moore, when he's gotten his opportunities in camp, Dan, he's actually shown out pretty nice. So if the Chargers do end up keeping a fourth tight end, I truly don't believe that they will, given the talent that you have at 1, 2, 3. But give these guys an opportunity to shine. Let's see what they can do. So again, nothing huge to look for from the tight end position, but as far as these young guys, and more specifically from Camp Moyer, because he's the one of the guys that are battling for a roster spot, I think that he's shown out the best so far out of this group. I like to see what he can do.
Jake, so far, tons of comments, tons of guesses on who was the first guess.
All good guesses
on Chargers Unleashed. We got
every single one of these ones
Austin
are people
Ekeler,
that we have had.
Chicken Parm, Donald Parham. We got Austin Ekeler again. We've got Donald Parham again. We got Matt Money Smith, Chris Harry. T22 says
none of them are right.
Hopper. James Wagner, friend of the show. Hey guys, bolt up and why not say it? Let's ride! Yes, by the way, Coach Staley said it first. Just going to put that out there. Hope everyone in Chargers Nation is well. And finally, dear God, it's game day.
Amen.
Great show. Thank you guys. Jake, I think we have a winner.
How about that?
I think you have a winner. And this winner has won.
It's a good day for you.
It's a good day for Sam Frieden. Yesterday wins the Chargers Rams preseason game. Today correctly guesses, quote unquote, guesses the first guess of Chargers Unleashed. It was the one and only Trevor Sikkema, friend of the show. Great stuff. Sam, you win again. You already know our DM details, so DM us your information as well as which shirt you like, what size, color, whatever, and we will get that over to you. Congratulations. Do you think he can go 3 for 3? Like whatever the next giveaway is. Like if he gets a third one, I'm like, dang, he needs to go to the casino.
Something, dude. There's obviously something then messed up in the progressive slots of Chargers Unleashed.
Clearly. All right, so Jake, let's get back to it. We talked about defensive line. Some of these guys just make us wish that we had more time or more energy or more dedication, if we're being quite honest, to the gym routines.
That's no question.
Damon Lloyd, Jamal Davis, and generally speaking, kind of that like outside linebacker situation. I can't wait to see these guys. You've seen Damon Lloyd, Jake, just ball out. Like that's not hyperbole. Like he's actually balled out so far during training camp. You've seen his name splash everywhere. You've got Jamal Davis also balling out, and dude's a freaking specimen. This is going to be fun. And I think because of the Kenneth Murray / Drew Tranquil unknowns, there's kind of this opening that we're kind of seeing happen where one of these guys could very well make the squad. Now, there's probably a better chance that they are both on the practice squad, but like there's a good chance one of these guys makes the team. Watching these two, we saw a one Kaiser White kind of light it up last night. Should they light it up? He had an interception.
I was just going to mention that because
the new 4-4.
Jamal Davis is wearing 44, and immediately my mind just went to Kaiser White. And I know what he did last night in the Eagles game, and that could be the reason that I drink my first alcoholic beverage today. What do you say to that?
Hey, every time I see a 4-4 make a play today and you drink, and if you get buzzed, like that's a great day. But overall, like this is going to be fun. This is going to be the first time, like the running backs we talked about, they can finally hit somebody. They can finally tackle somebody. They can finally get a sack, and they can finish something. And this is, again, one of those positions where one play can get these guys on the squad. And so these guys, Jake, in my opinion, are on one of the most volatile positions where like they could get it. If they get a splash play or two, like that might be their ticket.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting battle, Dan, when you talk about it. I think that it may be more of an opportunity for Damon Lloyd to make this team, given how he's come out in training camp thus far. And as you had mentioned, the injuries that are taking place at the inside linebacker position. Thankfully, we get Drew Tranquill back late in this week in practice. Kenneth Murray obviously still coming back from his injury, but Nick Neiman and Amon are both battling injuries as well. So Damon Lloyd is going to have a prime opportunity tonight alongside the likes of Troy Reeder. And Popper said that he does expect Kyle Van Noy to play in this game. So I'll be interested to see how long, what capacity, and what that looks like. Obviously, when you're probably going to be putting him more at the inside linebacker position than you would be at edge. But Damon Lloyd has a prime opportunity here to continue this vast role that he's been on in training camp because he's been fast, physical, looks great in coverage. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. And then Jamal Davis that you have up here, Dan, it's like, you know what the weird part about it is? This picture just doesn't actually do it justice. If you've ever gotten a chance to look at Jamal Davis 10 feet from you, the dude is just like a jacked beanstalk. He really is. And when we're talking about another position that has some flex as far as, are you going to keep 4 edge rushers or are you going to keep 5? And I know who was it? Was it Ty Campbell that wasn't practicing this week? So I think he's dealing with another injury. So this is a prime opportunity for Jamal Davis, who also has been impressing during camp as well, to get some good reps under his belt. What is Chris Rumpf going to look like in year 2? Now that we know that he's put in a lot more weight, Joey Bosa alluded to it. He's no longer, what did he say? He's no longer a string bean. He's an asparagus. Yeah, he's an asparagus now. So let's see what he does. Because again, we shouldn't expect to see Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack out there in this game. So these guys that are fighting for possibly the 5th edge rusher spot, I'm excited. And Jamal Davis and Damon Lloyd are 2 guys in their respective positions that I am really excited to see them play.
Herbalist puts a comment. Who shows out more in pass rushing? Is it going to be Hillary, Fox, Davis, or String Bean? I mean, Chris Rumpf. Obviously, he meant Tillery, not Hillary. And Chris Rumpf also is something that's been kind of a storyline. Like he's come out bigger. He's talked about, and I think Joey Bosa even alluded to it, he's more physical. I think the defensive line coach talked about being able to kind of feel his presence more than we did a year ago. So, Jake, question. Who shows out more in pass rushing? Fox, Davis, or Chris Rumpf? I think it has to be either. Well, it's got to be Fox or Chris Rumpf.
Yeah, I would pick between those 2. Honestly, I would.
Reality check. Lloyd is a sleeper to make the roster. I agree. He's kind of been like the darling of camp so far. Him and DeAndre Carter, I would say, are the 2. He's making it damn hard to stay off the roster. James Wagner comes in with a conspiracy theory, though of interest. Derwin James hold-in, perhaps intentional, for the development of Nasir. Crazy, but hey. Do you buy the conspiracy theory? Jake might be frozen, so he might not be buying anything. I'll answer that while Jake comes back. I don't necessarily know if it's a conspiracy theory, but I will say, like, I do think that there is kind of a secret handshake in the background going on where if he already has a deal in play, then, maybe they're like, you know what, screw it. Like, we don't need you out there. We don't need you risking getting hurt. We've seen that happen before. We trust you. You're going through walkthroughs. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Well, let's put it out there, I don't know, right after preseason. Like, why not? Because none of us really think we need to see him come back. But we do need to see Jake come back. I have no idea where Jake went. Hopefully he comes back soon. If not, we're going solo, me and you, the rest of the time. So Derwin can hold out all preseason, show up week 1. I don't care. Reality check. I would agree with you. I don't necessarily think we need to see anything from Derwin James at all. I know we had a bunch of new players. I know we have a bunch of new, scheme and everything going on with all the different, defensive linemen coming in. We've got linebackers. We've got safety. Like, the team is looking just fine without Derwin James right now in terms of how much pressure and how much, impact we've seen so far in training camp. So imagine what that will look like with an added Derwin James. So moving on, praying for Jake Hefner right now. I'm hoping he can come back. We'll see. This is live TV, folks. Okay, so corners and safeties. Let's go with the corners first. There's a ton of guys that for the first time, it feels like for the first time, Chargers fans are finally able to see a Chargers secondary with depth. Like, it feels so good to be able to see Chargers secondary show this much depth where we can actually have a competition of who can come in faster, the secondary or Jake Hefner. Jake, welcome back.
What can you say about live TV? That's
Reality
exactly it. That's exactly it. I paused myself. I intentionally disconnected my internet, and I went out to go get that first libation of the day. Trust me, it's going to be coming a lot faster now. I guarantty it.
There we go.
So I apologize if I was in mid-sentence going back to James Wagner's question. Dan, you probably, take the washcloth. You could wipe the sweat off your brow. I'm back.
I'm so glad you're back.
I have no idea what the hell you just said over the last 45 seconds or so. But all I was saying in terms of the Nasir Adderley, Derwin James development aspects, no. Respectfully, I love James Wagner, but Nasir Adderley's development has been by his own accord, and he's been doing a great job on it. And outside of me going to get a drink, Dan, what the hell have you been talking about?
We have moved on to the secondary. We're looking at corners now. So I think this is a big one. We talked about how excited we are to see the depth finally show up, and we're seeing those guys actually show out at camp so far. We look for that to continue. So guys like Nasir Taylor, Dean Leonard, Brandon Sebastian, Keeman Hall, Tavon Campbell, all of these guys are fighting for that back end of the secondary roster. You already have a J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr., you got Michael Davis, got Bryce Callahan. Like, it's already 4 guys locked and loaded. Don't have to worry about. We're now looking at CB 5, 6 as the guys that are going to be looking to kind of showcase talent. Nasir Taylor has been looking really good in the slot. Dean Leonard looks like he belongs, has gotten physical. You've seen him go up against Mike Williams, seen him go up against Keenan Allen. He looks like he belongs. Yes, he's gotten beat, but he's also a rookie. But he's not intimidated by folks. Keeman Hall and Tavon Campbell, they're used to this team. They've been here. Again, like, people want to give them flack for, some of the poor play. But again, like, they were expected to come in and go from CB 4-5 to all of a sudden be your CB 2. And that's not really sustainable. And you saw it last year, like in the Vikings game, they just got absolutely torched. So overall, secondary depth, huge, and going to be important. And I can't wait to see this all 4 quarters. We get to see the corners on display. Another one of those positions, though, 1 interception by one of these guys, 1 dropped interception, 1 broken coverage can be the difference between making the roster and you're on a different squad or you're in practice squad.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, as far as if we're just singling out the cornerbacks here, you mentioned Nasir Taylor, Dean Leonard. It really is going to come down to how many total defensive backs are you going to keep on this roster? When we went through our 53-man projection, we didn't see them keeping any more than 10 total, 5 corners, 5 safeties. Now, when you look at the way that this cornerback group has showed out, and hell, even the safety group, if you're starting to think of like guys like Raheem Lane, that has even really come onto this team.
Shown on the screen now.
How many defensive backs are you really going to keep? Because you've seen really good stuff from Dean Leonard, from Nasir Taylor. Keenan Hall is in that mix as well, as far as trying to get that last roster spot. Alohi Gilman, Dan, was a guy who we didn't have on our final 53, but with the time that Mark Webb was out, he actually was making plays here and there. Again, nothing like substantial and consistency goes, but I thought he did a nice job of taking those opportunities because I think that he knows that he's battling for a roster spot currently. And again, as you had mentioned, and as we have mentioned with other positions here, special teams is going to be so crucial. It's going to be so crucial for these guys when you're talking about young guys, back end of the roster. What's the difference that you're going to make outside of your defensive plays, the plays that you're going to make in special teams coverage?
It's going to be interesting. And we've heard Brandon Staley talk about it a lot where, there's corners and safeties, but it's really just like secondary defensive backs in general. And so, like, yes, you can kind of lump like the safeties into one bucket and corners in another, but I don't think Staley really sees it that way. So yeah, Raheem Lane has shown out so far. Like, he's been a bright spot in camp so far. JT Woods, I think folks talked about like things were going a little quick for him, but he's kind of starting to kind of come to his own which you would probably expect from a rookie. JT just has like the sheer athleticism and the raw talent where if he could put it together and he could be on the field with a Nasir Adderley and Derwin James, like that's going to be insane. It is interesting though, Jake, kind of going to the corner side, like Ja'Sir Taylor, Dean Leonard, Brandon Sebastian, Keeman Hall, Tavon Campbell. Like there's so many guys, but like of that group, I think you got to say it's Dean Leonard. I think it's tough because you've got Tavon Campbell and Keeman Hall, who they're NFL players. They've played in the NFL. They've had some up and downs, but they're here. And then you've got Dean Leonard, Ja'Sir Taylor. Maybe the question is like, which one of those would you trust more? Like, would you trust? Like, would you trust like the rookie with potential, who's kind of shown out, but it hasn't been on the big stage yet? Or would you trust the guys who have been in the system, who have played real NFL meaningful snaps, maybe haven't played the greatest, but like have that experience? Like, which one of those would you want?
Well, Dan, you kind of have to ride that line between where one side you have, what have you done for me lately? And then basically everything back to being square one. So if you look at Keeman Hall, yes, he's got more experience than the likes of Dean Leonard and Ja'Sir Taylor. But when we're talking about actual playing time, we know what that looked like for Keeman Hall. So big question for him is, has he made any adjustments to his play? What improvements are we going to see outside of training camp in a real live game? And then for guys like Dean Leonard and Ja'Sir Taylor, the reason to really be so excited here is that both of these guys, between the two of them, can excel in different corner spots. Dean Leonard is going to excel on the outside as long as he keeps progressing and moving forward. Ja'Sir Taylor, because of his speed, he's been essentially the next slot guy behind Bryce Callahan. And that's where his bread and butter is. And again, when you're talking about how much versatility that you have in this secondary roster, if we're just talking about cornerback specific, look what one thing in adding J.C. Jackson does. It adds so much versatility to Asante Samuel's position. Yes, what are you going to do with Mike Davis essentially being slotted in as your CB4 now? You bring in the likes of Bryce Callahan, who has the slot situation on lock right now. And then you have these other versatile pieces to spring around them. And your secondary group all of a sudden is extremely talented with speed and size and hopefully physicality as well. So again, it's going to be a battle for this last spot. And again, it really comes down to how many are you going to keep? And if at the least, let's make it a tough cut. I would love to see all three of these guys go out and perform well. Make the cuts tough.
I think that's what I'm most looking forward to, though, is like last year, I think we've seen a lot of people kind of talk about it. There's been some rumblings where like folks were kind of provided like the de facto spot. And I think that was because of lack of depth the Chargers team had last year. This year, like it looks to me that this coaching staff is like, F it. Whoever is the best player at that position, like you're going to have to win it on talent. Like, I don't care how long you've been here, i.e. Jerry Tillery. I don't care if you've been in the NFL, i.e. Tavon Campbell, Keeman Hall. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the best players are going to win. Screw how much we've paid. Screw how much what draft pick you are. That's what I'm looking forward to. Like, these guys are literally playing for their jobs. And they're friends on the field, but they're also competitors, weirdly, on the field as well. So, safeties, corners, I think in general is going to be a fun one. And I think that's going to be something that you can see a lot of. Like, there's only so much we're going to see from the tight end battle, but the secondary is going to be out there all game. And whether or not they throw to them, you could still look at film to see how they go up against wide receivers, how they go up in special teams. Are they able to cover? Are they able to press? Who knows? So corners, safeties, big one. Question came in, Jake, from James Wagner. Kind of an interesting one. We didn't talk about the quarterback battle because obviously who our QB1 is. We don't need to. I don't think it even matters who QB 2 and 3 is because they're both going to stay on the roster. But the question came in specifically about if for whatever reason, I'm paraphrasing here, James Wagner asked the question, if for whatever reason Justin Herbert is not playing, do we have a dude at quarterback that can kind of orchestrate a game-winning drive? He talked about like the, Easton resurgence. Coach talked about the development he's had. You heard him on an interview recently and kind of showing what he does from day to day. Do you have belief in either of those two quarterbacks to go out and manage, possibly win a game for you? Honestly.
How do I phrase this properly?
Good luck.
Absolutely fucking not. What can I say? Look, there is in terms of the actual question here that James is asking, and I know that there is a camp of people that believe that Easton Stick should be the number 2 guy as far as this quarterback position goes. I'm personally of the belief that I think that Chase Daniel, especially just for a guy, whatever you want to say about his career, his stats, everything like that, that's all well and good, and it's valid. But as a guy who's been in the league that much, who has seen that much, whether it means that he's got a clipboard on his hand or he's been getting starting reps, for Justin Herbert, I thought that was crucial for him coming in the way that he did. If we remember going back all the way to 2020 in that type of a fashion, I think that was critical in his development. And I personally think that he's taken to that and he's learned a lot from that. Now, Easton Stick, I see the advantages that he has over Chase Daniel. I remember that preseason game when Easton Stick got loose and ran all the way to the end zone. It looked great. But there has nothing that has been shown for me in training camp that Easton Stick is that dude personally. Now, I'm also of the belief that I don't believe that the Chargers should go into this season keeping 3 quarterbacks, especially when you have this many guys battling it out for roster spots. But everything that we've read from Coach Staley, it seems like, and much like the 53-man predictions have gone, that we're going to see all 3 of these guys end up making this roster. Maybe it is a long-term development standpoint to build Stick up to that point of becoming a reliable backup for whenever Chase Daniel is either no longer in this roster or walks away from the game, whatever it may be. Maybe that is the long-term plan. I don't know. But as far as what you've seen from camp, let's just say we'll see what happens when you're going up against a team other than your own.
Yes. Folks loved your response, by the way. I will say, I would agree. So Sam puts out a comment here. If our run game takes a step forward, we could probably win with Chase for a couple games. Not happening in the playoffs, though. I agree. I think if the Chargers have a game manager at quarterback, I think they can get away with it based on talent alone on the defensive offensive side of the ball, quarterback aside. Can they go all the way? Absolutely not. Like, we're all on the same boat. Like, if Justin Herbert is out, like, there's no point in us talking about Super Bowls. But I think we all know that. So I think the bigger question here is, like, of the 2 guys, who do you trust more? And personally, I think I trust Easton Stick less than I do Chase Daniel. Like, I see, given what the team I think would need from that position to win without Justin Herbert, I think Chase Daniel gives them kind of that calmness, gives them that, like, the experience and the game manager stuff that Easton Stick just doesn't have yet.
Sure.
So that's who I'm going with. But again, like, I don't even want to think about that because that's not fun. We're wrapping up the Chargers Unleashed live show, getting ready for week 1 preseason. Man, it feels so good to say the Chargers football is back. Let's get into kind of maybe some predictions or what people think we're going to see today. Folks in the comments in the chat, give us your predictions, things that you either want to see or will see today in preseason game number 1. We'll go ahead and kind of rapid fire put them up on the screen as we go through. Jake, is there anything that you think that we can be surprised about in terms of, like, storylines or things that we've not even talked about that, like, can all of a sudden, like, bam? Like, I know we didn't specifically talk about Otito, like, defensive line in general, like, they can show up. Like, but outside of kind of what we talked about, like, is there a storyline or is there something that can kind of come out of left field. All of a sudden, like, bam, like Chargers news goes crazy that we didn't discuss.
I would probably say you have the most potential of this to happen in the running back position. We have not heard much from Letty Brown or Kevin Marks throughout this entire training camp.
Great point.
And as we get later on into the game and they start handling more of the reps, you would like to see something from them that just makes you say, wow. With the way that Letty Brown and Kevin Marks have been hyped up as undrafted free agents and what they did during their college days, again, they're essentially just in a log jam and in an unfortunate spot, given the fact that there's 3 or 4 guys ahead of them on the depth chart. So whether it's on this team or another team that they're just trying to make good film tape for, I would like to see something from one of those 2 guys because honestly, haven't seen much in training camp, and that would be a nice surprise.
Question came in, Jake. How many roster spots go to cornerback and safety as you guys see it right now? I think we talked about it. I think the magic number was 10. I think we got 6 and 4.
That's normally how it goes. It just depends on how you want to split it. Do you end up keeping 11? But again, if you keep 11, that means that you subtract from one other spot, most likely on the defense. Again,
and you can't subtract at linebacker. You just can't.
You can't afford that right now. But again, here's my point of why you should only keep 2 quarterbacks because it gives you more flexibility elsewhere. But that's just me. I still say it's going to be 10 at the end of the day. However, the Chargers want to split that's where it's really going to become interesting.
So real quick, because you got Mike Davis, obviously.
Yep.
Asante Samuel, that's 2.
J.C. Jackson, 3. Bryce Callahan.
That's 4. Derwin
James
Taylor. 5. Real quick, Derwin James 5. Nasir Adderley 6. And then obviously J.T. Woods 7. You got 3 more slots.
Alohi Gilman, Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard. Did I even say Mark Webb in there?
No.
Boom. I personally think that Mark Webb should have the advantage here. Given the fact that Brandon Staley has talked about their expectations that they had for him last year. Now, unfortunately, he's been hit with the injury bug again. Thankfully, he came back to practice this week. So I would love to see a lot more from him. And again, we talk about these guys in the defensive backfield. What's really going to separate them, Dan? It's going to come down to special teams. And if you were to point at any one person for that, you kind of have to give the nudge a little bit to Alohi Gilman as it relates to the special teams. If we're just talking about the safety battle, me personally, if I was to separate my 10, given with what we've seen from training camp, I'd say you keep 4 safeties and you keep 6 cornerbacks.
But it's just 4 safeties. There's no way you're keeping Alohi Gilman.
Over Mark Webb, if he's healthy? No, I wouldn't, because Mark Webb, I think, is just a much more versatile chess.
I think it's going to be 11. I think it has to be 11, and they figure out where that gets taken away from on another position. But like, look at how many guys there are. Like, I personally, Mark Webb should make the team. Then you got the 6 guys already talked about, and then Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard, both those guys are fighting for it. I don't know. I don't think Alohi Gilman, if it was me personally, I don't think Alohi Gilman fits the mold of what Brandon Staley is looking for. When you look at him compared to Mark Webb, compared to a JT Woods, compared to Nasir Adderley, compared to Derwin James, he's just kind of the opposite side. Like, there's a lot of guys that need to fill those 3 spots. And so I think Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard, Mark Webb, those 3 guys, I think, but then you also got Keeman Hall, Tavon Campbell. Like, there's so many of these corners are going to get picked up somewhere else.
Not enough roster spots for a lot of guys that are battling for these type of positions.
No. Predictions. So let's go through them. Zion with 2 pancakes today. Pancakes honestly sound great right now.
They do.
Richie Lloyd comes in with this game in week 17 is going to be a preview of the Super Bowl. Jake, imagine an LA Super Bowl. That would be so fun.
The national media would hate it. People around the country would hate it. I guarantee you they would hate it.
We would love it. It would be the best.
Would love it.
It would be the best come up
We
story.
would love it, but the national media would hate it.
Solo Man references 4th and Staley. Remember, get the hat at LAFB Network. You can go to the shop, use the code Unleash, get 25% off.
Go for it. 4th down inside the 40.
Which 40?
Hopefully not our own.
See, I think it's more of a like a bold prediction. If it's I think we will see it.
It's the preseason. 40. It's the preseason. So if you're gonna do something that drastic, what the hell? Easton stick. The down is 3rd and 17, and we're gonna go for it inside our own 40.
Our own 40, just for kicks. Let's go.
Let's see what happens.
4th and 23. Let's go for it. See if you can do it. Jake, I don't think we're necessarily. Okay, I asked the question. One thing that I think could be a storyline, if it were to happen, that we didn't talk about. If we see 5 field goals today.
5 field goals today.
And we see attempts, and we see 2 for 5. That's a storyline. Like, nothing gives Chargers fans anxiety more than like kicking issues.
Is that you putting negative energy out into the world?
No, but I'm saying, well, yes, but I'm saying in terms of like storylines that have not been talked about that like could come out of left field and be like, oh crap. If we see Dustin Hopkins just shank 3 of 5 field goals today, I guarantee you tonight, tomorrow morning, everyone's gonna be talking about like, crap, here you go again with the kickers. I don't think it'll happen.
I know. Who are you right now? Why would you even put that out into the world?
I'm just helping folks prepare
for the unexpected. Me, and no other Chargers fan ever wants to have to talk about a kicking situation. Ever again.
Solo Man asks, what is your red zone percentage prediction today? Offense or defense? Let's go both.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so offense last year in the red zone, as far as just putting up overall points, not necessarily touchdowns, the Chargers weren't bad at that. So again, we're not talking about Justin Herbert at the helm now. So what's that going to mean? Still, you're going up against pretty damn deep defense, regardless, even if their starters aren't going to be playing. So you know what, Dan? Let's just say let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say they make 4 trips inside the red zone.
Humming.
I'll say they get 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals.
4 for 4.
Yeah, I'll still say they'll go 4 for 4. Okay. But that'll be their scoring split.
What about defense? I think defense is going to ball out today. I can't wait to see this defense.
They could. Oh. I would love to see them take the Rams 1 for 3 if they end up getting into the red zone, but I highly doubt it.
Jake used to be Chargers homer.
We're talking about preseason, guys. Let's not forget that. We're just look, anybody that can correctly wager on preseason games.
I was just thinking that.
You and I need to talk.
Whoever bets on preseason games, I'm like, that is bold. Like it's
bold, and if you win, it's even better because I need to talk to you then.
100%. This has been a fun one, guys. For folks watching, tuning in, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Again, go hit the giveaway on Twitter for Isaiah Spiller. Just had his 20th for his birthday. We're giving away a signed mini helmet. Jake, we've got a ton, and this is no hyperbole, a ton of giveaways coming up after this one, all across the season.
From now till 2027. It may end up extending past September. So yes. if you enter for this Isaiah Spiller giveaway, again, the giveaway will conclude on Tuesday, and we'll announce our winner for that. Do not feel distraught if you are not a winner for it, because just like the Mike Williams signed mini helmet, there are a plenty of other giveaway items that we have that we're probably going to drop at some point next week when this giveaway completes. So make sure you keep eyes peeled for it. Make sure you enter and follow the rules accordingly. Have a lot of great items for you guys to give out.
Yes. Shout out to Rock Solid Sports Memorabilia. They've got a few signings coming up. Mike Williams has a signing. Keenan Allen has a signing. For questions, or if you'd like more information on where you can get your memorabilia signed, send us a DM. We will happily put you in contact with them to get things moving. Jake, Denver Henderson wants you to pay the bills.
I already paid the bills.
We've already paid the bills.
I already paid the bills.
Our friends over at Bet Online. Use the code BELIEVE50. We've done our job. Jake, anything else we want to tell the good friends of Chargers Unleashed before we get ready to start drinking either non-alcoholic or alcoholic beverages?
Whatever your
Chargers
preference.
week Chargers got football today. I'm so
Whatever
excited.
your preference, football does not discriminate between alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic beverages. That's a fact. So
yes,
I'm just happy that we can sit on our couch in front of a television that has Chargers football on it once again.
Yoda brother, the director, comes in
As
with
if
the
on
hammer.
point, talking about alcoholic beverages.
Stay frosty. The frostiest Bolt brothers on the web. Bolt up, bros. Chargers football tonight. I'm shaking. We're all shaking. The director. Cannot wait to see you out at Chargers camp. Out at Chargers game this season. I know you're going to be there. We'll be there together. I got your back. For folks who have not seen, which I'm pretty sure everyone knows who the director is, but if you don't, go follow the director.
What have you been doing?
What have you been doing with your life? He gives us absolute fire content all day long. Shout out the director. Football is back, Jake. Richie Lloyd, Chargers football is back, baby. Can't wait for the live show. I think the director does like live streams during the games.
Yes.
If you're wanting some more fun, go check it out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a fun one. So much to look forward to for this game. Again, hit the like, subscribe, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Do your thing, guys. Thank you so much for all of your love and support throughout this entire process. Training camp has been fun. We will be out at training camp again next week, and we'll be at FanFest. We'll have some more coverage for you guys, so don't worry about that. But until next time, you can find Jake Hefner on Twitter with his Manscaped t-shirt. Won't find that on Twitter. At Jake D. Hefner. Myself, you could find with a 4th and Staley hat, either in the stands today at SoFi or on Twitter at Dan W Sports. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy this time. Chargers football is back. Bolt fan, we got this. 4th and Staley, let's ride. Jake, I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's go watch some football.
Let's go.
Football is back, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on Chargers on